On this end here is Mr. Dean Wilson. He's Honda HRC Australia, and then HRC Honda Progressive Riders Jet Lawrence and Hunter Lawrence, Monster Energy Star Racing Yamaha Cooper Webb. Right next to him is HRC Australia Joey Savatgy, and then we have Luke Clout from Empire Kawasaki on the end. We'll start this one off for a question for either Hunter or Jet. Gents, welcome back to Oz. First bakery, how good was the first pie in Australia?
It hit different for sure, gosh. I hit the first day for breakfast. Probably not really the best idea, but I saw it, I buckled, and I found out also you have to pay for the sauce. I ended up stealing the bakery of a 30-cent sauce, so I feel bad, but...
Peas or no peas? Peas or no peas?
I get chunky steak.
Chunky steak. What about you, Hunter? What's your poison, mate?
Yeah, same thing. Chunky steak. It's good. Yeah, it's good.
All right, now we've got the important stuff covered. Justin Brayton's here. He's going to ask some of the serious questions as well.
This one's to either of you boys, Jet or Hunter as well. Obviously, it's been a while since you've been back here. Coming back home, does it kind of make you realize or be proud of what you've truly accomplished since you left? I know, Jet, we spoke yesterday, it was like a laundry list of accomplishments. I mean, I spoke for like 30 minutes just about all the championships and races you've won. So I guess for you first, Jet, is it obviously fun to come home, but does it kind of put things into perspective, just how much you've accomplished just in the last 5 years?
No, for sure. It's really cool when you're kind of listening now. It's cool to hear when you think it doesn't register the same, you know. So it's really cool, especially since the last time I was here, I was just starting my professional career and had no wins, no nothing to my name. I'm pretty sure last time what I said, I was like, I would love to get a few wins, few race wins, and now we got a whole tally of championships. So it's definitely cool. I'm very grateful for that. And no, I think it's also just a cool feeling to come back, just to kind of help the younger kids nowadays. Like, hey, it's possible, even though it might not seem like there's a path for you or anything. Like, as long as you stay committed and just stay disciplined and keep working hard, I mean, anything's possible. We never thought we'd get to this stage. So I think also it's cool to come back and have all those titles for the kids, you know, just to realize like what is possible for us.
Just a couple more for me. Cooper Webb, I find it interesting that the first time you came over here to Aus X Open, you were battling a guy named Chad Reed, Australian legend, two-time champ in America. Now roles are reversed. You're almost 30 years old. You're the two-time champ. You're fending off the kids to the left. Pretty cool, huh? But amazing how fast time goes.
Yeah, it is, man. It's like you said, I was 18 my first time here when we raced in Sydney, racing Chad, and he was the legend like he is, and two-time champ. And yeah, it's almost 8 years later, kind of the roles are reversed, and we got the new Australian legends themselves. So it's great to be back. Always enjoy coming to Australia. Always enjoy racing here, and to be able to race, you know, truly some of the best Australians ever produced is really cool, and grateful for the opportunity, and looking forward to having a great weekend.
Last one for me, and then we'll open it up. Joey Savatgy, kind of a last-minute decision to race for Uribe over here. Talk about the experience. You've obviously got the red plate, been a fun battle between you and Dino throughout the season. Just talk about your experience here in Australia, and then obviously hoping to wrap up the championship tomorrow night.
Yeah, it's been enjoyable. You know, one thing about me coming down here is it's always been a very positive interaction with the fans, and they've always been receptive and welcoming. So for me, that's it always makes my job a little easier. But yeah, as far as you know, the Uribe deal, it definitely came together last minute, and yeah, it was. I'm glad I did it. It was just, I was at a point in my career where I didn't know what to do because I had other options similar to what I did last year, and I just didn't feel like I could afford to do that just where I'm at. You know, I want to race, and I want to try to continue to get better. So the decision was pretty straightforward, but yeah, it's been good. Dino and I obviously are almost neighbors. We don't live very far back in Florida, and I have a lot of respect for Dean. He's accomplished a lot of good things in his career, and he's one of the older ones, but he still knows how to throw down. So yeah, definitely it hasn't been easy, and you know, it's as I've learned before, nothing's over till it's over. So yeah, it's the goal is to go out tomorrow and do my job and perform to my ability, and I think we'll be in a good place.
Just a quick one, obviously, for Dean. I think there's probably $1 million question here, mate. Not riding press day. We all saw the post, your status for this weekend. If you wouldn't mind just giving us an update.
Yeah, so I've been just trying to rehab my shoulder and do what I can this week, and we're gonna try right tomorrow, strap it up, and it could either be one of those things that I feel better than I expected and I can race, or it's not gonna feel great and I'll probably just pack it up, go get surgery. So one of those situations, not a great, not an ideal situation, but we'll give it a go, give it my best, and that's kind of just the cards I'm dealt with.
Unfortunate. Okay, we'll throw it out to the room for questions if you like.
Sweet.
That was pretty quick, painless. Anybody in the room got questions? We do have a few riders up here that fire away. Jason McAlpine.
Hunter, we'll start with you, mate. Jet obviously got to experience Marvel Stadium in 2019 when he raced here, but this is your first time in this stadium. I think a lot of people maybe have the conception that Australia is like a very small country with small stadiums and small tracks, but after being in the US for so long and then stepping into this stadium, I mean, how does this compare compared to what you've raced in the US?
Yeah, it's awesome. This stadium's unreal. It's huge, you know. It's bigger than some of the stadiums we race in over in the States, so it's cool. Shane was saying how he was so surprised, like, oh, you know, the Australians take pride in everything they do and everything's done so proper and stuff. I'm like, yeah, mate, we're competent people, trust us. So it is cool, man, it is cool. And even, you know, 2 weeks ago in Paris, that stadium's unreal as well. It just shows the potential of what, you know, we can do for the sport in every little corner of the world. So yeah, it's unreal. First time here and just so stoked to be home.
No, I was stoked to have you back. I want to go to Cloudy up the end there, mate. You're the sole Aussie, like, I guess, how would you say, like, you're the guy that's racing in Australia full time. Everyone up there are, I guess, international racers at this point. So for your perspective, how much has this series grown this year? And are you excited for the future with what you've seen from the Australian Supercross series this year? I think the boys being here kind of puts a big spotlight on this event, but we're still racing for an Australian championship. So your thoughts on the series going forward?
Yeah, it's grown heaps. I mean, look at the guys that are sitting next to me at the moment. Like, you can't get much bigger than that in the sport of Supercross worldwide. So to have these guys here racing, you know, in Australia, it's, you know, it just shows the growth of the sport. And, you know, like we were talking about before, you know, we went and rode, just the potential that this series has is unbelievable. So, you know, I think in a couple of years, you know, if it keeps growing, it's going to be you know, I mean, the world's its oyster, really, isn't it? So I'm excited to be a part of it, stoked to be racing these guys, and yeah, looking forward to tomorrow night.
Hey, Alex Gobert, MotoOnline.com. For Cooper, tell us about where a race like this fits into your pre-season as we approach Anaheim 1 next year. How does it fit in, and just the importance of that?
I mean, it fits perfect for me. I think it's the timing is really nice spot. You know, we've been able to train for basically a month, ride, train, and then we get to race, and obviously it helps being able to race everyone, but especially, you know, Jet and Hunter to my left, like they're setting the bar really high in the US, so I think for me to get those gate drops and race them is important going into Anaheim. And yeah, it works well with my program. I'm able to go back when I get to the States, and we have basically a 6-week block to get ready for the US series. But I think it's hard to replace these gate drops, especially nowadays, and in this stadium being as big as it is, it's no different, right? Like, it feels like we're at another Supercross in the US, so it'll be awesome. You know, I think gate drops are super important in this stage of my career for sure, and racing not only these two, but the whole group here. You know, some great riders, and it's definitely going to be a like bar banging action the way the format is and stuff. So I think it's hard to duplicate that when you're at the practice track.
Thanks. And then for Jet as well, when you think back to this season, it was, you know, obviously yourself and Coop had a major battle for the championship in the US. So when you see his name as one of the guys who are coming to Australia, as well as the regulars in this championship, and Hunter as well, does that excite you to know that you can basically bring a battle, a rivalry like that into your home country on this occasion?
Yeah, I think it's awesome. I mean, Cooper and I went at it all season last year in Supercross, and it's probably one of the most funnest seasons I've had. You know, like we can ride each other like very aggressively, but we very rarely go and bang each other or we take each other out. We've touched a couple of times, but it's been a friendly touch. You know, and I thrive off of that. Like I feel like that's so much better racing than just coming in and taking someone out. You know, like so. For him to come here, I think it's just as good as us racing in the States. We get to bring it to Australia also, so Australians fans can see it firsthand. And I still see Cooper as a friend. We've known him. I've known him for a while. I mean, he rode at the compound for a while too before we owned it, and so he knows me pretty well. So it makes it more exciting because we both know each other, you know. So it makes for good racing.
Yeah, thank you, Nick. Still Moto Online. This will be for Jet and Hunter. Aus X Open, you guys are such a major part of it this year. Is this something we're going to see moving on into the future? Is this going to be a thing you guys come home every year for? Is that the plan?
Yeah, hopefully, mate. That's the goal for sure. I think the sport's in a really healthy position right now, so we'd be silly not to, you know. And when we were younger, all we ever wanted to do was watch Chad do well. So for us to, you know, hopefully be great role models for the next generation, to just, you know, have an Aussie to bat for and have someone to look up to and show them it is possible. And even we didn't even think we'd get this far, and we were able to. So just that is a huge thing, and just trying to make the sport bigger and grow it in Australia. Over in the States, we're trying to do it as well. And yeah, I'd love to see it as a long-term thing.
And then for Jet, like we said just before, you've won a lot of what there is to win in the US. What is the goal for you? Where does this thing end in 5 years? What's that deep down goal that Jet Lawrence wants to achieve?
I haven't won an Aus X Open yet. I haven't done that yet.
Is that the final piece?
It could be. It could be the final piece. No, you know, it's for me. I think, you know, when I lay in bed at night, I try and think what could motivate me more. And for me, it's obviously records. I want to try and race and beat records and stuff like that, but there's times where I don't feel as motivated, but as soon as I lose, it kind of, as that competitor in me, it naturally fires me up again, you know, like, so I'm probably not going to win everything, but I know there's going to be races where I go back and I'm going to be pissed off because I lost, where either Hunter beat me or Cooper beat me. So it's for me, it's just trying to beat records and make people hate me more.
A question for Jet and Hunter. On a bit more of a human level, you know, we talked about you as a homecoming. Jet, this was your entry to professional supercross back in 2019, but, you know, collectively, you were really young when you left for Europe. Hunter, you were a little older, but going back to the sunny coast, I anticipate, like, how were the feelings there going back to sort of your old life? And, you know, I know Justin touched on that, but was it a real sense of, we've been gone for all this time, this is what we've achieved, and when you go back to your old hometown, did it sort of hit you in that sense?
It was, yeah, a little bit for sure. It's cool to come back and to also realize, like, because we have been around the whole world, to like realize how grateful we were to be living there. Like, Sunshine Coast for us personally is like the nicest place in the world, we think. So it's cool to come back, and just also to come back in a different state kind of way of living, you know. Like when we left here at such a young age, we were back here the toilets, and for us it's a small little accomplishment to come back and we're in first. Like it's a small thing, but it's for us it was such a major thing, because we came back, we went and left not thinking that's possible, where we came back and we feel like we're on top of the world of what we've achieved so far, just because it's been so untouchable for us in the previous years. So to come back and be here, we kind of reminisce of old times and stuff like that, of being kids. And yeah, we missed out on a lot, but I think what we missed out on, I would miss out on 100 more times.
Yeah, it was cool. I think one of the biggest things was, like, when I left, I was 15, and you know, you're still in school, and then coming back and all your mates are working and stuff. But it was cool to see just the friends and family we have there, and you know, seeing my mates that are doing well for themselves. That was kind of what stoked me out more. Honestly, just seeing them and the lives they've created for themselves and stuff was pretty cool. But yeah, it's funny. We felt like tourists. Like we didn't feel like we come back home, we have no ties there anymore. But yeah, it was funny. I'm like, we're home, but gee, we feel like visitors this time. So it was different.
Yeah, it's like, are you home, or is, times moved and you got a home in America now? But it's great to see you guys back. Cooper Webb, question for you. We can get all the nice stuff out of the way now. There's a race tomorrow night, and we know you're a gamer, and I know there's nothing more that you would probably like. I'm calling the action tomorrow night on the floor, so I'll be doing this a lot. It's America versus Australia.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and you're a guy that in the last laps of the race, as the track tears down, you take the shortest lines on the track. You're very efficient as things break down, and I know there's nothing more that you would probably like than to maybe try and beat these guys on home soil, right?
Yeah, no doubt. I mean, it's obviously the goal, and as everybody up here, the goal is to win, right? But yeah, I mean, it's something where we know how great Jet is and can be and all that, but at the same time, like when I go to sleep at night, my goal is to beat him. So I think that we're in a great spot. We were able to build and be in a good spot to hopefully put a good result in tomorrow and keep everybody on their toes for sure.
All right, one final question from me, Joe Savatgy. Joey, on par to wrap up this championship tomorrow night. Your career has certainly deviated from the standard, and I did a podcast with Justin Brayton just last week, and we talked about his career path and becoming a 5-time champion in Fox Australian Supercross. Obviously, maybe not something you anticipated years ago, but does this become part of the career plan now? Do you see yourself being, part of the Australian Supercross calendar, and how does that rank for you as far as an achievement?
I mean, yeah, I would agree. Definitely, if you'd asked me, I don't know, 6 years ago, it probably wasn't the game plan. But it's sometimes you got to take it in stride, and things don't always go according to plan. But I mean, for me personally, like I've just learned to try and enjoy the fact that I'm able to go race. I mean, to be honest, I love racing, so these gate drops have been good. They're obviously not the traditional format that I'm used to back home. But to be able to kind of maybe sharpen up on some things, be a little bit better at the opening laps, that kind of stuff, I think this is all good building blocks for 25 AMA, and yeah, I feel confident that I'm racy, I guess you could say. But yeah, I mean, I would love to come back and keep doing this. It's I get to travel and see parts of the world that I don't normally get to see, and go racing, and yeah, I don't see why not. It's definitely on the list for next year at least, for sure. But past that, it's something that I'm open to, and yeah, I'm happy to be here. Looking forward to maybe trying to be an upset.
Dino, this one's for you, brother. This year, back in Australia, obviously you're the defending champ from last year, but I just want to get a sense of your take. Like, you've raced Supercross all over the world. Like, you're in Brazil, you've been obviously like the stuff in Europe that you've done, and then the AMA stuff. So just where this series kind of ranks in terms of, I guess, like the global picture of racing Supercross, and do you think that Australia is slowly becoming maybe like the second best country in the world for Supercross in terms of like a domestic series?
Yeah, for sure. I noticed this year they really put in a big effort. Everything just looked a lot better, bigger, a lot more fans, and they've done a really great job this year. And I think every year it's just going to get better. They've invested more, and it's been a really good series. And really cool venues as well. I thought Wollongong was really cool. The stadium's right on the water. And yeah, I think, like I've told Kelly, they've done a great job. And the whole Aus Supercross crew, it's definitely like, you can tell they're making a big effort. And, it's just, they're always trying to get better, which is really cool. Something as simple as, we had the cardboard tough blocks at the beginning, which I love those because when you hit them, they just kind of diminish and you're pretty safe. But then they're kind of experimenting with tough blocks to make it better. So something even as small as that, over-under structures and just everything. They've done a great job. Huh? Nets that saved Joey.
Nets, dude. I'm here for it.
Yeah, he did a wall ride. So honestly, it's been awesome. But if I'm talking to any other American, it's terrible, so they don't come here.
Yeah, and then Wollongong too, they had basically like a collab with Volkanovski. Obviously, you're a big UFC fan. How was the experience of like, I guess I personally think it's rad to have those two kind of cultures and worlds come together.
Oh, I totally agree. And Volk was just like such a good human being. Like we just had a chat for like 10 minutes. And I'm like an actual deep UFC fan, as you know, so I was just like super fanning, like talking about his old fights, this and that. So he was just a really cool guy, nice, normal human being, and that was really cool. And I think he's coming this weekend too. And it's pretty cool he's coming this. Is he coming this weekend?
Yes.
Okay, so he is coming this weekend, and I think that's cool because I think he's got a fight. He's prepping for a fight, so that's huge, and that also brings more fans into the sport. As well as I'll add having Adelaide on the roster as well, bringing all those V8 supercar fans. They're just at the race already, so then the Supercross is right there, and then they've never seen it before, so I thought that was really cool as well. So they're definitely leaving no stone unturned, and they're trying, and they're doing a great job.
Yeah, I think it was 250,000 fans over the weekend that were at the V8 Supercar race that actually ended up getting exposed to Supercross.
Yeah, I think that's awesome. So, and then also TV package is really good too. So, no, it's all, they're all going in the right direction for sure.
And then Joey, just for you, mate, I would consider you one of the top tier Supercross riders in the world on a 450. I think kind of unlucky the way that things have gone in terms of rides over there, but in terms of just flat out speed and ability on a dirt bike, I think you're one of the world's best. And being at that level and being around the domestic guys like Cloudy, there's a bunch of other Aussie dudes that are riding really well. What's your take on the general level? And you've spent a lot of time in Australia over the years as well. So I guess Dean talking about the series getting better as a whole, but from your perspective on the riders as well, like have you seen an improvement in our guys domestically?
Well, first of all, I appreciate that, the kind words. But yeah, I mean, I think as the series, like Dean said, continues to grow and the effort is growing, the resources also grow. So, these guys there's more and more tracks popping up, being able to ride. Kids are starting at a younger age. Like I look on Instagram and I see these kids on 80s that have it looks like Baker's factory in their backyard, So it's cool to see that because that's kind of how it was in the States for a while with training facilities, I remember getting on a Supercross track when I was on an 80 and, at the time it felt like maybe it was a bit much, but it only helps you later on down the road. And, Cloudy stepped it up a lot, to be honest. It's obviously coming into it, you never really know what to expect, but from raw speed, between him and Dean, it's Super Pole and qualifying, it's always one of those two usually knocking me off the top. And so it's for me it's cool to see that it is growing more outside of just the States, and the level definitely, I would say, even from watching it back in the day when Gavin Faith was here in 2015-ish, the level itself looks like it's grown. The ability of the riders has improved and increased, and the tracks, like Dean said, have gotten bigger, and there's a little bit more consequences to making mistakes, and I think all of that is good because it forces the rider to make smart decisions. And sometimes I think when the tracks are too mellow, you can get away with too much, and then when you get thrown into a real Supercross, that's where you see more mistakes made. So they've been making strides in the right direction, and it's cool to see the environment as a whole continue to elevate on all the little levels, like Dean said, stuff that you don't really think about. But for the riders, we see it and can nod our head and appreciate that kind of stuff.
I got one more question. Hunter, this one's for you. There's a lot of talk about you on a production bike, you and Jet. Two things. I believe that it's a testament to just how great the bikes are now off the showroom floor, because a lot of people at home are probably sitting here think there's no way you could ride a Supercross track on a production bike, and they're going to see you guys do it. To it being a new bike, is there anything you can learn? Because sometimes we know we go straight to the factory bike and they're like, just maybe go back to production so we can learn a few things. So is that a little bit of the plan this weekend? Can you take this home to America and say, hey guys, I learned this and that from the production bike?
Yeah, absolutely. It's, like you said, a testament to how good production bikes are, and and the new Honda on outdoors was unreal, and we haven't got a lot of laps on Supercross yet, so it's cool. Just chuck some suspension in, and it does. It's always we always like to be able to ride the stock bike before we go to the factory bike, just to reconfirm that yes, the factory bike is definitely better, because I'm sure everyone's heard of cases where guys have preferred stock bikes over factory bikes. So that's something we like to double check ourselves on. And yeah, absolutely, right now we're still in early days of developing this bike on Supercross, so it does give us a good idea, you know. And the track kind of broke down a little bit in the corners. Not broke down, but got ruts, and I think it's going to rut up really good. So it's great for us testing wise to see how this bike handles, and then obviously go back to the factory bike and see, you know, just compare apples to apples.
Awesome. Thank you, guys. That's SX1.
I've got one more thing to add. I have an announcement.
Uh-oh.
Everyone's seen what happened last weekend with me, so I took it into my own hands to hire security for the weekend. Tate, can you come up here?
Yeah, honestly.
Alright, so if anyone's got problems with me, they're dealing with Tate, alright? That's who you go through. Don't talk to me.
Thanks, guys. Big Honda party up here. On the froth Honda, we've got Shane McElrath. Sitting next to him is Brodie Connolly and Cole Thompson. Justin, if you've got some questions for the boys, fire away.
Interestingly enough, you guys probably seen some videos and stuff. These three were all laying on the ground together at round one in one of the berms, unfortunately. But we're obviously coming into the last race, Shane. You've got the red plate. You started the season off a little bit rough, 7th at the first round. We've touched on it before, but we'll touch on it again here. Was it just you underestimated them? It came together last minute. You went from the 450 to the 250. So there was a lot of things at play. But just talk about that first round, and then you haven't lost since.
Yeah, honestly, it was not really coming in unprepared, but not coming in completely focused. And that's really what round one taught me is like some of the 450 guys were talking about, the level of the riders here are, they're really good riders. And so for me coming over, it's like, yes, I should be able to win these, but I also have to do my job. And so, I didn't do that very well at the first round, and it put me in my place really quick. So yeah, that was a big slap in the rear.
Just one more from me, Brodie. For me, and I think for a lot of people out there, you've maybe been the surprise of the series. You were new to Supercross coming in. You've been on the podium almost every weekend. What are the plans from here? Did you surprise yourself? And then is there plans to continue and maybe even go to America at some point?
Yeah, for sure. Obviously, that's the dreams to go to America. It has been since I was a little kid. But yeah, I've only been riding Supercross for a few months, so it's just figuring out sort of how to race it, and that's going to take gate drops. And yeah, obviously I want to take this further, but it's sort of trying to time it right. I still think I can get better here, so but yeah, it'd be cool to see how this weekend goes, on a bigger track. Adelaide was good for me, but yeah, I've been really enjoying the Supercross riding.
Have you surprised yourself at all? The race with guys like Shane and Cole, who are obviously some of the best guys in the world. Have you surprised yourself with how good you are on Supercross?
Honestly, you don't really think about it in that way. But yeah, after Adelaide, I sort of definitely surprised myself a little bit. That was sort of the first round I felt half comfortable, and being able to push the speed. The first 3 rounds was our plan, was sort of just to get through it, get those gate drops, and then Adelaide I really felt like I could start to push it. So yeah, I definitely have surprised myself a little bit for sure.
Awesome. Open up to some questions.
I'm just a bit curious how the vibe's been in the truck. I've heard some rumblings. I'm kind of far away these days, and I've been hearing rumblings of the truck. So the management of the vibe, how does it take the mind off the racing, or does it zone you into the racing? But just interested. Want the T-boys. I've heard it's been a wild season.
Yeah, it's definitely done a little bit of both. Like you said, we all want to win, and I think that's really kind of where it's came from. So, when we're one of the biggest teams in Australia, and that's where it's like I didn't really think about it coming in. I didn't know how many people were on the team when I got over here, and then they started naming off guys, and I'm like, okay, like they keep naming them, and it's like, we literally have 9 guys on our team, and I'm like, so how many people are in the 250 class? And they're like, yeah, 5. I'm like, okay, because when Cole and I were joking about it before the season, we didn't know that either one of us were coming, and then once we knew that we were coming, I only knew that it was going to be him and I. So then we get over here, and then there's 3 other kids. So it's yeah, I mean, it's definitely been different. It's been yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, we show up to the track and we have a job to do. So it's definitely been tough to manage that at times, but it's like, hey, we gotta push this stuff aside.
Anyone else?
Oh, it's been alright. Yariv sort of sorts us out, I guess. No, I think we're all good now. Adelaide, we all raced each other pretty clean, so no, I think it's all sweet.
And is there an element of, I guess, like this is your place, like this is where you kind of do business. So everyone in motorsports wants to be the best rider on the team, but is there even like a bit of an added part of it for you where you really are kind of trying to stand your ground in terms of like, this is the place where you do business all year?
Oh yeah, a little bit, I guess. Yeah, Yariv flies some Americans over, so obviously you want to beat them just to show Yariv, I guess, a little bit. But no, it's cool. It's awesome having these 2 guys here, and I've been learning a lot off them.
Brody's not afraid to throw some elbows.
Cole, what's your perspective on all of it?
Yeah, no, it's been good. I think everything's good moving forward. I don't want to say too much, but yeah, no, it's been good. I feel like I'm a bit of the center in why maybe some of the controversy came up online, so yeah, it's been good.
Hey, Alex Gobert, MotoOnline.com. For Shane, you're recognised as one of the very best 250 riders that there's been in this sport. So how would you, when you arrived in Australia, were you kind of taken back? Obviously the size of the team is massive, but the sport, the series in general, and then just the team you're riding for too, it's first class.
100%, and that's something where for me, coming over here to race was a little bit scary. Just finishing up a long season in the U.S. and Yariv Marty and Yariv both approached me, and I told both of them no, and I was just like, dude, I'm worn out. Like it's the end of September, and it's like, hey, you want to go race in Australia? And I'm like, yes. I mean, I need the money, but it's like I'm really tired, and so it's talking to Brayton. Brayton really encouraged me, just seeing what he's done at the end of his career and how he's been able to make it work. And something that our sport's not good about is teaching us riders how to be business minded and how to think long term. And that's where I'm 30 years old now, and it's like I do this because I love it, but I'm not going to do something that I love and lose money at it. So yeah, it's definitely a scary decision. I mean, it's not something that we really thought that we would be doing, but it came up quick and it happened naturally. And so now being over here, getting to know Yariv, I mean, this is the biggest team in Australia, and it's like you said, it's first class, and that's where the last couple of years for me, just kind of getting through, and it's like, okay, just keep working, and then I come here and it's like, dude, this is spot on here. And so yeah, just totally changes my mindset, and really long term, it's like, how can we work with these guys here, because they make you want to work hard, they make you want to do well, and they're there to support you 100%. And that's something where it's like, you don't get everything working together very often in your career, if ever. And so it's a really good spot for me right now.
In America, you are a 450 guy at this point of your career. When we fast forward to 2025 and what your future holds, is the ideal scenario to potentially be with this team still in America? Is that even an option?
We're trying to make it an option, and that's something where I would love to be. I really believe I can be good on the 450. I just feel like I haven't really been in a really good spot to make that happen, and I'm trying to claw my way into beating the factory rides. It's really hard when you're on a lot less equipment. So I think that's where it's for me. I see how the program works here, and I know the way that they are looking at things and how they're putting things together, and so it gives me a lot of confidence equipment wise, and knowing that what they've been able to do in one series in the States and then coming over here, it's like, okay, this is a really good bike. So I think at this point in my career, we're definitely piecing things together, but that's where it's like JB told me, once you drop the pride of having to race in America, you can make it work everywhere else, and that's where I'm having a blast learning that right now, and how can we continue to piece that together.
Brody Connolly, this one's for you, mate. You spoke before about the timing of your career, looking to perhaps the States. We've seen you race MXGP as a wild card this year. I know you're still relatively young, and timing is everything. We saw you go to America in the preseason, I believe it was last year, and had that subsequent injury. But again, same as Shane, with Yariv having this really unique global footprint for the team. I know you've got to go race tomorrow night and there's other things to focus on, but do you have a rough career plan mapped out when you would like to maybe try to make that move to the States, to American Supercross? Because like Justin said, you've been the breakout rider of this Fox Australian Supercross Championship, and you can definitely go too soon and it can hinder your career, but you can also go too late, and it's a real fine line. And I know as a rider, you have to do your job and be focused right now, but yeah, you dominated Pro MX this year, you took it to a new level. What is that sort of loose time frame for you? What do you think?
Yeah, sort of. We're still talking about it at the moment. Obviously, I went over to America after motocross at the end of last year, and got hurt. And the plan was to race futures this year after motocross there. But yeah, obviously got hurt, and then sort of had a talk with Yariv and stuff, and decided to do another year in Australia, which honestly I think was a little bit of a blessing in disguise. I've learned a lot more this year, and yeah, this year is sort of only my second year, racing motocross professionally. So yeah, I do have a plan of what I want to do and where I want to be. Yeah, it would be cool to get over next year and do a little bit, but honestly for me it's it's seeing how tomorrow night goes, and how close I can be to the boys, on a bigger track. So yeah, obviously I'll race motocross here next year. But yeah, maybe might do a little bit at the start of next year. But yeah, I'm not massively sure yet. It's sort of just working out the timing of it and trying to do it properly, and yeah, not going too early, because obviously I've only ridden Supercross for a few months. So, but then America is sort of the place you want to be and the place to learn it. So yeah, we'll see.
Cole, I have one more for you. How important is it for you tomorrow night to go out on top? I feel like you've qualified really well. When everyone watches you ride, you ride extremely well, especially on Supercross. You have the speed of the boys to your right. Just haven't quite gotten it done to get that win. How important is it tomorrow night to get that done?
Yeah, no, I appreciate the compliments. Yeah, I take pride in what I do, and obviously it's a results-based sport, as anything is. And when you're fast in practice but not doing it in the race, it doesn't really matter. So goal is qualify good tomorrow, and execute 3 good races. And yeah, Shane's no easy feat, Brody, and nor is any of the Australians. I mean, Shane said earlier the same thing that I've said for years, is Australians very underrated how good the riders are, and especially on home soil. I mean, the tracks they're really good on, and if I can get a win and the opportunity's there, then yeah, and just try to put my head down. Like I say, it's been a rough couple of weeks, and results-wise this year have not gone to plan. So yeah, there's been moments of brilliance and moments of light, and then there's been some dark days as well. So just try to end on high, try to end with a win, and do the best I can.
Just another one for you, Cole. I think 3 Triple Crowns in Canada. You've raced in Australia. You race AMA. Would you, in terms of level in Australia, are we at around about the Canadian level, do you think, or we're a little bit quicker than that, or how are the guys?
and no disrespect to my own country, it's much higher over here. If I'm being honest with you, the Australians seem to the sink or swim. So meaning you bring an American like Shane that's at a high level, or myself, not that I'm accomplished as Shane, but still I've been racing for a lot of years, and they adapt very quickly. Meaning that they take pride in what they do. And this is just from my experience. The Canadians, we had a Supercross series and we were trying to grow it. My brothers run that series up there. They want it terminated. They didn't want to see Supercross grow in Canada because they don't want to learn how to ride Supercross. Australians actually the opposite. They want to grow Supercross so that they can get their riders to America, if that makes sense. And being that a kid that grew up on the border of America, that was always the ultimate end goal, was to end up in America, and that's what I followed through with. But a lot of other Canadians seem to fall short of that and think priority needs to be motocross. And that's why Australia, that's why you have two of the best riders in the world, and Chad Reed, and pretty much JB can say the same thing as even guys like Luke Clout and stuff that have been around the sport for a long time, and even Matt Moss. I grew up watching Matt Moss as a kid, and he's still giving her every weekend, and I think that it shows the difference in speeds and levels that other countries might find. And you see it a bit maybe in France. You see a lot of good French riders and stuff, but you also see a lot of really good Australian riders. Even since I've been here in 3 years, there's a lot more new names towards the front now.
Awesome. Is there any more questions in the room for the guys? That's it. Thank you, gentlemen. We will wrap this one up and we'll move over directly into the team managers conference. I think I might direct the first one to Darren Lawrence. Just Darren, interesting. We were seeing here before where we had Shane McElrath sat next to Brodie Connolly. We've got a 30-year-old guy racing a 19-year-old guy. The way that the series is developing, and I don't mean this disrespectfully, there's guys that get the 30s and they come to Australia to race. Do you believe that those guys coming in, like your JBs, and the level of Supercross in Australia is rising as a result, direct result of better competition being here?
100%. It's the reason we left Australia. If you want to get better, you've got to get beaten. And those types of guys are the perfect guys to come in that have a good, mature look at the sport and can flow the tracks in a different way. So these kids, I find today, learn a lot more through visual, not through literature. So for these kids to see a Shane McElrath or a Joey or a Dino even, to see how they do something, the kids will absorb it a lot more and then be able to put it into practice. So yeah, I think it's the perfect way to do it.
JB?
Darren, I'll stick with you. You're obviously back home. You left a long time ago to chase a dream with just some bags and the kids and your wife, and you're back and you're maybe got the best two kids on the planet right now. And now just being home, does it really sort of sink in now? Because being up on the Sunshine Coast last week, did it bring back some memories of when you're packing your bags?
It was quite strange. Like Hunter said, like you felt like a visitor. America's now home. So that was a bit like, wow, I never thought I'd ever say that, But no, it was weird. There's mixed emotions when you come back, because obviously when you're here, you're battling, you're working your butt off constantly. So there was also some sadness in your heart of like, holy dooly, this is what I went through, But very, very blessed that my kids could enable me to have a life that I have now. And so it's sort of humbling to know that you're the dad and your kids are now supplying your lifestyle that you couldn't supply for yourself. So it's a humbling experience, to be honest, and it makes you really, really grateful.
Yeah, and one more question for you. We've all been around the sport a long time. I feel like parents sometimes have gotten a bad rap, and I really feel like you've changed that. You truly have, and that has to make you proud to be in it for the right reasons. I think so many other parents and riders are looking to you, honestly, for advice. And then I was interviewing Hunter yesterday, and just the perspective he has on life. You have to be a very, very proud dad, and just the way you've gone about it's extremely impressive.
No, thank you. It's something I learned earlier, that as a parent, obviously emotion gets in the road, with a lot of your decisions. And at the end of the day, the Lawrence setup is a business structure. So Hunter and Jet are nothing but promotional tools for Honda, Alpine, Red Bull, and so forth. So you have to, as a parent, look at them in that regard. Emotion obviously sways on how you look at things and loses context. So that was the biggest thing I learned as a dad, was like you had to really treat it like you're going to work. Like these kids, it's a business, and you have to be truthful and honest with them. So that's how I manage it in my own brain, to get myself on the right track and be honest. Like we've said, Hutch and Lars, and we've obviously talked many times, like, nah, bike's fine, the boys are just sucking today. We have to get them better. And they were like, and they've said it many times, they said, man, we're so glad you're here because we could never say that. And so it's you just got to be honest as a parent. It's probably how I manage it that way,
Two more from me. Jeremy Coker, you've been out there for press day. What's your impression so far? Aus X Open, Marvel Stadium, Melbourne. Pretty amazing, huh?
Yeah, so far it's been awesome. The facility here is pretty impressive. It's one of the biggest floors I think I've seen ever for Supercross, and the track, the dirt, everything looks really good. The city's been really cool. A lot of travel time to get here. That wasn't fun, but since I've been here, it's been great. Everybody's been awesome, and really look forward to the racing.
Yuriv, last one. You're entering some rare air where you continue to win, going for your 7th championship in the row in the Premier class. You've obviously brought Shane McElrath over to continue your streak there. I guess it just keeps rolling, and the more you win, obviously the more you continue to feel like you have to win. First thing, how proud of you or proud of the team are you? And then second thing, obviously every year you come back now, just the standard is you have to win.
Yeah, the expectations are high, which gives you a lot of anxiety, and you go through it and you become your own biggest rival. Like, you're always trying to be better every day, and you're trying to learn how to improve. And I take a lot from the things I see overseas, and even speaking to Darren occasionally, and you learn from him where you call riders out. Like, you learn a lot to try and make the team better, and that's a constant for me. So definitely proud. I mean, I never imagined. It's different. I don't have my own kids, but my team are kids. You've heard me say that a lot, Justin. But when you hear Darren, how humble he is about the fact that he gave the kids the opportunity, not the other way around, but he thanks them. It's similar to me. I wanted to take what I learnt here and go overseas. I wasn't a good enough racer, but it's a big world out there, and for me to learn to be better, I needed to be around better people and better competition. I think it's helped my team be where it is today from the things I've learnt going overseas and seeing what they do there, from their training, their practicing, testing, everything. It's definitely made us a stronger program, but it's the selfless act of everyone that's in the pits. The hours that we keep aren't normal. There's not one person in the team that keeps normal hours, and a lot of the people working for me have children and wives, and it's quite selfless to be able to stay at the top. The reality of it is, and I think anyone that has a team would say the same thing, the riders come first. If we're going to take the responsibility to take them on and give them a contract, they come first all the time. And I talk to my team about that, to drop ego at the door. It's never about us. And I'm super proud of the people that we've got around us. Without them, the results aren't there. But yeah, expectations are high every year. The moment you get second, you're questioned, which makes it really hard because someone has to lose. But the moment you're not winning, people are asking why. So constantly trying to evolve and learn and be better. And it's because of the team I've got that we are where we are.
Actually, I have one more for Brad. You guys kind of first, you obviously worked with Craig for a long, long time. Craig's a championship-winning team owner for years. In my opinion, one of the best teams around the world, really, for a long, long time. So you learned a lot from him, but now you stepped out of that role. You're kind of the leader over there, Empire Kawasaki, and you got the Luke Clapp to try and win races and win championships. How has that first year gone? Obviously, Luke's been very impressive in Supercross and late in motocross, but just talk about the transition and your first year working with Cloudy.
Yeah, I mean, obviously I worked with Luke for many years. It's tough. It was really a really steep learning curve. Obviously a new machine, the Kawasaki. I've been with Yamaha for many years. So in that regard, a new model bike too. So we had very limited data from 23 to going into 24. So yeah, and it was a big job, and it still is a big job. We haven't finished yet. It's, we've got this weekend to get through, and but yeah, it's been exciting, to say the least.
Just got a quick one for Jeremy Coker. Obviously, you've got a couple of kids from this end of the planet over there with Caden and Cole right now. Do you look at this series potentially, when we've got teams like Honda and the level, do you think this could be a development pathway for the sport into the AMA, which is obviously where everybody wants to go?
Yeah, I always think it's a really good thing for other countries to have Supercross series. Supercross in the U.S. is now, I would say, the number one most important thing for our sponsors and TV packages and all that stuff. So to have these other countries have Supercross series, to have these kids developed a little bit more in Supercross is huge for us. Obviously we still look at motocross, and we know that if they can ride motocross, we could probably teach them to ride Supercross, but to skip the big learning parts of it is a big asset for us. And for sure, that with the couple kids that we have from here over there now with us, it's we look at it as a very positive situation.
Just a quick one for Craig. Craig, you've been here a hot minute or two. The 85 Cup, just following on from Jeremy's response, do you see the CR22 85 Cup as being a genuine part of the longer term progression and more hunters and jets coming out of this country?
Well, it certainly can't help. I think Australia went through the cycle however many years ago, a couple of decades or a decade ago, where we did have 80cc's racing Supercross here, and that sort of influenced and inspired that generation. Then it sort of all went away for a while there, and I think the level in Australia, although we've got a couple of guys that are still quite good, the level has dropped compared to how it has been over other eras. So I think moving forward, it'll probably take another 3, 4, 5 years, and you'll see the positives of that starting to pop its head up. But the good thing about it is the light is certainly on in Australia at the moment. What the Lawrences are doing, of course, what Chad's done before that, and just sort of a couple of young kids that have made their way into the Star Yamaha team in the States. There's certainly a lot of eyes on this country.
Right, I must throw it open to the floors. Any questions? Of course you do, Jace.
That's what I'm here for, mate. Jeremy, you've got Coop racing this weekend, obviously, and I think it's pretty impressive to see where he was at Bercy this year compared to last year. Like, obviously, that was basically his first foray on the bike. I think he's come a long way. This is your first time here. Coop loves this event. I think he's just kind of dealt with these people and kind of knows what to expect. But this is your first time here, and your first time seeing how big the floor is, the dirt, the way that this event's run. Hayden expressed interest in racing this event. Are you kind of looking at this now as like, hey, maybe this is something that we can use as like a real test before Anaheim? Because Bercy's obviously a great event, but it seems like more of a show than a real Supercross kind of test. So I guess just first impressions of this, and could this be something that maybe you guys will invest in as an A1 lead-up race?
Yeah, I think for sure. That's why I'm here. That's why I've gone to a lot of these off-season races this year. To see what we can do. You know, obviously, I joke about it to some people that we already have too many races, but we continue to add more to ourselves. But it's only to benefit us, especially when you get a little bit, I was talking to JB about this earlier, when you get these riders a little bit on the older side, Eli, Cooper, to keep them going is a huge asset to us. I think it's no secret in the past if Eli usually takes 3-4 rounds to get going, and now we keep him racing. And same thing with Cooper. It's one of those things where you want to, it's good to have an off season and take some time off, but for some guys, taking a break can really be almost like a restart period. So to keep these guys racing is huge for us. So yes, absolutely. I think we'll see tomorrow when I get to actually see how it works out, how it's ran over here. It's a big thing for me to be here to see that and to bring more riders over next year.
Yariv, just a quick one for you. You've gone for your 7th championship in around the 450 class, but it's been with all American riders. Obviously, Australian team, Australian series. Is there a part of you that really hopes to develop an Australian rider that can win this title? And is there any conflict? I mean, obviously, you guys get paid to win, so it's like you need to bring the rider that can win, but is there any internal conflict of winning all of these Australian titles with American riders?
I don't feel any conflict. I have a responsibility to deliver great results, and I'm certainly not going to discriminate against anyone because of where they're from. I mean, I'd hate to see that happen anywhere around the world. Then we wouldn't see the Lawrences doing what they're doing, or Reedy, McFarlane, Metcalf, Burner. So, I want to open doors. I want to help elevate the sport. I'd like to think bringing the level of competition we've brought to Australia has lifted the level of competition in Australia. I saw when we took Luke Clout over to America. It was really successful. I wish he had stayed. I mean, he was running top 5. Brodie Conley's getting an opportunity that he never would have had, and in all honesty, wouldn't be able to afford. He couldn't afford as a privateer to go to America for 3 or 4 months. So we've brought the best riders here, and now he's going to feel confident about going over. So would I like to see an Australian rider win an Australian championship? Again, that'd be racial for me to suggest that. I just want to see the best riders win. Do I enjoy seeing Brodie succeed? Anyone that was at Adelaide would have seen the elation in the team when Brodie and Alex Larwood did well. That was special to me, but I feel they did well because the competition had lifted. Would they have brought the same intensity if the Americans weren't here? I don't know. I haven't seen Alex Larwood start like that in 5 years. So he knew what he needed to do, and he's really worked hard at it. Whoever wins, wins. And I don't mind where they're born.
Great points.
Hey, Alex Gobert, MotoOnline.com. For you, Darren, we heard the boys speak about riding the production spec bike this weekend, but can you shed some more light on that and explain what that means? How much different is it for those guys? And just your thoughts on that.
Yeah, it's just being considerate to a team. You know, it's a big thing for the team to send 2 factory bikes, obviously all the way to Australia. So it's more in the fact of like we don't have the parts that we're trying to develop for Showa this year because we've got a whole heap of new stuff in the fork and shock. So we had enough, obviously, at our bikes were left at the Nations, so we could take those bikes from the Nations to Bersey. It's just too big of a cost and manpower to try and get them bikes here for 2 boys. So it was like, hey, we don't need to break any records this weekend. It's about come back, just hit your marks, ride nice. I think we can do a decent enough show on a factory motorcycle on a standard motorcycle with factory suspension. So it's more a consideration for our team, to be honest. It is a long season, and we need to be aware of those guys work really hard. So it was more just trying to work in with your team, because if you want to keep sending factory bikes, I think that's why a lot of the big name guys sometimes over time they can't keep coming. So for this to keep growing and to build a foundation of this Aus X Open and to keep it going for years to come, I think you have to be considerate about the people that make it happen and then make sure the longevity's there for the future. So it was more in just manpower and trying to be considerate, Alex, yeah.
And how does a race like this fit into the big picture in terms of 2025 preparations? Is it a good kind of benchmark to work from? Can it be a disruption? What's that like from your standpoint?
It's 50-50. So we got 3 days of testing on the new Showa stuff and the new frame, and so Paris we were way too soft. So it was good for us to go, oh, okay, we're not in the window, you know. So at that point, you'd be happy to go back to California and start to get the bike in a window, you know. So this one's like, okay, for the team it was like not ideal as in evolving for Anaheim 1, but when you make a commitment, you got to stick to it. So we just got to keep on trying to learn, get some muscle memory on what the bike's doing. So when you go back to California, you can really stipulate on, all right, this is the area that we're finding the worst. Start there and then progress from there. So still attributes to your Anaheim 1, but it could also mean if you don't dot your T's and cross your T's and dot your I's, you might be a little behind the 8 ball. But it's the decision you make, you just stick by it, you know. So 50-50, let's say.
Yuri Konski, this one's for you, mate. The growth of the team, you know, I speak about this a lot collectively, but I feel you have a really unique global footprint where you're actually competing in, other than MXGP, which isn't really relevant to a degree, with Supercross. Like you're in AMA Supercross, you're in Australian Supercross, you're also in World Supercross. And I think I've also got a question for the Yamaha side of things as well, with the global symmetry that we're starting to see between Supercross championships around the world. And then also myself, somewhat selfishly, I follow what you do. I'm in marketing, I run an agency. It's a big part of the sport, and your ability to secure, innovative bike sponsors ties in with what we see in V8 supercars with car sponsorships. You brought that over essentially to the industry here in Australia. Not so much of a question, but I guess you've been at this for a long time, and it must be somewhat rewarding to see the ability to give, you had Wilson Todd over in Supercross a couple of years ago. Brodie Conley will likely follow that route with the team, and you have a very unique global footprint that you've been able to grow from, it was from your area, the factory in Seaford where it all started to now. It's very impressive.
Thanks so much. It's surreal. Like I've said it again many a times. I feel like I'm on a holiday. It doesn't feel like work. It's long hours, but it genuinely doesn't feel like work. And if I've got the opportunity to help another rider properly, to do it properly, then I'll try and do it. It won't come at a cost to the way the team needs to run, and that's clear with the results we're achieving. I won't compromise that. But this all happens because of Honda. So it's easy for me to say I have a dream, but American Honda have opened their doors and given me a modest opportunity over there. Honda in France gave us a great opportunity a couple of years back with Ken and Justin, and Honda Australia I've been with now for 22 years. So collectively, they make this dream happen, and I'm fortunate enough to steer the ship. But if we can do it properly and we can give someone an opportunity, then I feel that's my purpose. So we try and do that. Thanks.
Thank you. Jeremy Coker, Craig Dack. Interesting observations, like I said, the evolution of professional motocross and supercross and how this global footprint is really evolving with different championships. We've seen the relationship. Like Craig, I know you personally, you've had close ties to America and Europe over the years as far as, the CDR Yamaha bikes have been renowned as being some of the leading Yamahas in the world with tech and performance. We saw Eli Tomac over here in Australia last weekend with a different championship. This weekend we've got Cooper Webb here. Is there, I guess for Yamaha, it's global branded, Monster Energy, Star Racing, Monster Energy, CDR Yamaha. How has that relationship evolved for you guys? And just talk about that as the sport grows, working together as teams.
Yeah, I think for sure it's been a goal of ours at Star Racing for the last few years is to grow the global Yamaha relationship, because there is so many opportunities and so many riders that you could place in different avenues. So for us, it's an important thing to be able to lean on Craig to have Eli race the World Supercross or have his support when we come here. Same thing, I lean on Yamaha Europe when we go race nations. And so yeah, it's a big step for us. And on a side note, it's kind of great when I show up here and I look at your Reeves team and it looks like the Star Racing of Australia with 32 riders. So it's kind of nice to know it's not just us. But so yeah, it's for sure it's an important part to have the relationship globally.
Yeah, and I've obviously had strong relationships with Yamaha Japan since the end of my racing career when I was a test rider for Yamaha Japan. So a lot of the engineers and managers there I'm good friends with. I know all the people in Europe and America, but the relationship with CDR and Star is only quite young. We're only just starting to get to know each other. CDR in Australia has got a lot of soul searching to make in Supercross. We've been very, very strong in motocross for many years, but our Supercross program hasn't been great. And probably that's a little bit my fault, to be honest, by trying to stay with Australian riders, whatever that means. But now it's clear that we have to react to what Yariev's doing, and we will do that. And then moving on from that, the World Supercross thing at the end of this year, our contracts are up with that. It's third year, isn't it? Our contracts are being renewed, and it won't be renewed as the same contract. So we have to see what all that looks like before we start making decisions for next year. But I think what's going to become difficult, probably Yariev's sort of, I guess the word is capitalised on it better than I have in the last couple of years, is amortising your costs against those two series, Australian Series and World Series, and using those riders. But I hate to say, I think that it's going to be inevitable that we're going to have World Supercross and Australian Supercross clashes next year. So that's going to throw a pigeon in to the whole thing and how we structure everything. But it's all exciting times. The relationship with Star, Jeremy and I, is on a very positive direction.
Tom and I've got a question for Darren Lawrence. Darren, you guys have forged not a unique pathway, but a pretty interesting one. I think Casey Stoner's family probably have similar tales about how they did it. It's 2026. You've got 16 kids. You've got a 16-year-old. What are you doing? You're doing it again, or are you going to take a different pathway?
No, it's same pathway. I'm not a smart man. I just followed Reedy.
Yeah.
I just knew there was something in Europe. Had no clue what was in Europe. I didn't know the sport. I never raced a motorcycle. I rode in the bush with my mates so we could laugh at each other. So I knew there was something there, and knew I had to go to Europe and just hope we found it. So no, I'm doing the same thing.
Question now for our Australian team owners. Is what I mean. You talk about growing Australian talent. Is one of the concerns that you just become the talent factory for overseas, and you go to all this effort to bring these riders up to a certain standard, only to have them take off? Would you like to see the series strong enough that they could stay and make their money and live here, or is it always go free, go to the US?
We'll never be strong enough to compete with America. We don't have the population. We don't have the sales volume to justify the costs that are being spent there. So from my perspective, I love to see the young kids going through, or some of the older kids. Kyle was talked to following his success at Red Bud and Southwick, was with a different brand, but we were 100% behind him to go to Europe. But that fell through, sadly, because of his age. So some things that Darren has said earlier on is that you just need to get up and go. It's good to see Caden Mania going overseas. It's good to see Cole Davies there. Hopefully in the not too distant future we see Alex and Brody. Reed Taylor is an exceptional talent. So it's a hard thing. We talk about me bringing international riders to Australia, but there's a real reality. I think Craig will attest to this. The depth here isn't huge. We're a small populated country relative to the rest of the world. So when we want to run 2 or 3 riders in a particular class, we do need to look overseas. But hopefully our younger kids coming through, we're not going to be able to hold on to them. And they're only going to help encourage our sport because they're going to encourage the next generation to come through. What Darren's doing with his 2 boys overseas, particularly with social media now, where everyone can see what these kids are doing, I love seeing it. I love seeing them with their cars, everything, because it's only going to encourage the next generation to try and achieve that. So hopefully that inspires more people to start racing motocross and supercross, and we'll see a lot more younger talent hopefully going overseas to try their hand at international racing. So no, it doesn't concern me. It's a reality of life.
Great. And you want those. You certainly want young kids to follow their dream. A guy my age, have been around the industry for a while, and to see those kids, to watch the Lawrences doing what they do now, it's an amazing feeling for me as an Australian motocross, supercross guy to see what these kids are doing. So the more the merrier. There's less good stories than bad of that. Everybody doesn't make it, but you've got to give it a go. And as far as trying to keep them here, I mean, basketball has a similar problem. Not a problem, it's not probably the right word, but when you've got international sports, they're always going to try and get out of this country because big paychecks are overseas, especially in America. So, rugby league or AFL, they don't have those problems because it's a domestic sport. But when you're running a sporting program that's international, they've certainly got to, but that's the reality of being in Australia, they're going to want to take off and get the big bucks.
In the future, if they're as good as the Lawrences, though, you guys could try to keep them. That'd be great.
Well, I mean, the one argument that we've had is, supercars have managed to raise the depth and the quality of their fields to the point where kids aspire to do that and nothing more. Yep. We've seen some of the guys go to NASCAR and similar, but what do we need to see out of our MX3 85 programs to really fill the funnel? Because you're saying there's not enough depth. That's how you cure that problem.
Our sport's very different. I mean, supercars. I mean, again, you're talking about drivers who are very capable, but with very limited opportunity. We've got such a large global population. For an Australian to get an opportunity in car racing, they'd want to have big 7-figure budgets that they can take with them. That's one luxury about our sport. I don't know what Darren spent to take his kids overseas, but relative to what people are spending to get an opportunity in F3 or F2, it's near nothing. You just need talent in our sport, grit and discipline. So if we've got 85 riders and MX3 riders, they're going to go. And we encourage them because keeping them here is only going to stunt their opportunities. But from our perspective, having the Lawrences here, having Cooper Webb here, Justin Brayton in the past, it's actually lifted the awareness of our Aussie riders that wouldn't have had that. Everyone on this panel here, and I was listening to before Kyle Thompson talking, they talked about Matt Moss, they talked about Luke Cloud. These are international riders talking about our domestic riders. So we just need to keep building their profile. Aus X Open is going to do that. The competition that's been delivered this year in terms of the Australian Supercross Championship is the best I've seen it. and everyone knows I tried it, but it is the best I've seen. TV's improving, racing in Adelaide, being introduced to new people. That's all we need to do. That's also going to help us commercially to be able to give a bit more back to all of our riders. But yeah, collectively, I think we're achieving it by bringing the best riders in the world here, and we're patriotic, just like any other part of the world. We're going to hear people scream not only for the Lawrences, but for Luke Clout, for Matt Moss, for Brodie Connolly, for Alex Larwood, so Reed Taylor. So that's all we can do, but we're not going to be able to retain talented 85cc. I mean, look at Townley. I mean, he's going to Europe. We're not going to retain talented young kids, and we shouldn't want to. I mean, it's a very different sport. To be the best at this, you need to be over there racing the best.
And the foundations of the sport at the moment, Supercross, when you say the sport, it's like motocross and Supercross, almost two completely different things. And the foundations are probably stronger than I've ever seen it. And one of the examples, I won't bore you too long with this, but you heard that we had a supercar round a couple of weeks ago in Adelaide, and they had 300,000 people there over the weekend. And where they had the Supercross was on the other side or wherever, made it an area for it. And I think it was like the supercar practice finished, and then our racing was going to start 2 hours later or something like that. So literally what I saw, those grandstands for our Supercross got filled about an hour and a half before our racing was about to start. So what that showed to me, people weren't drawn there because they heard motorbikes. They actually had a plan to go and watch the Supercross. So to me that was a really positive sign, and as far as the awareness goes of our sport, it's probably at an all-time high.
I think one thing that should be mentioned is Motocross of Nations this year, and just the continuity between Darren and Yariv. Darren, why don't you talk about that a little bit? Obviously, Australia's first win, Motocross of Nations, the two boys, and Kyle Webster, who's Yariv's rider. The effort that you put into Kyle, speak about that a little bit. Obviously, Kyle was over, American Honda built him a bike. You guys go on to win Motocross of Nations, so it's pretty special.
They stole him from me. That was all good.
No, it's what you learn is obviously the mental, the frame of mind that Kyle's in, or an Australian that comes there. Because I know with my boys, when they would turn up to junior world titles in Europe, which we went to just to get beaten, to work out watching my boys on just trying to get them calm. So the idea of Kyle coming to us first and then on was sort of kind of how we went to Europe and then we went to America. Trying to get him, it's okay, it's all good, just relax and ride your dirt bike. It's not hard. So that was the concept in Kyle's step, and he still didn't ride, I think, as good as he can, because it was like a big stage and he was wanting to, do the best he could, which is only normal. So yeah, it was. I knew we could win a Motocross of Nations. I knew we just had to have a bit of luck, because France had a bit of bad luck, and poor old Coop, I don't think, was up to speed on the 250, what I think he could do, So we had a bit of luck our way, but I knew Nations, you sort of always need a bit of luck, I think, to win it. So yeah, we're pretty pumped to get done so early, I think,
I think it needs to be said to everyone in the room that the Lawrences made it work with Kyle. Like, full factory bike, everything that Kyle needed. Kyle would message me most nights and say that as soon as SMX finished, Dazzy was out there giving him some guidance, pushing them along. So Kyle's come back a better rider because of it, and very aware of the things that he's not good at, and which is really important, because he's just won a motocross championship, and Dazzy and Michael Byrne really pointed out how he could improve. So I really hope that Kyle's there again next year for Australia. I'll certainly allow him to go down that path, and he'll miss Supercross again because it's all really close. But yeah, Honda America made that work with the Lawrences. Like, we literally were told, in the nicest way, step back, we've got this under control, focus on Supercross in Australia, we've got him covered. And yeah, he didn't need for a single thing. It was amazing. Amazing.
All right, if you've got no more questions from the floor, we'll wrap this one up. Gentlemen, thank you so much for your time.